Hey everyone, this is Oliver Joyce from Whiskey Barrel Studios, and today I just wanted to record a little video about something I've been thinking about for the last few days. It's something that's been in the news in the last few days as well, at least the gaming news, video games news, and that topic is in fact crunch. And what do I mean by crunch? What I mean by that is the process in a video game's life cycle whereby you work really hard and very long hours in order to get a game completed. It's not something that is particularly unique about the video game business, but it's something that has become more and more associated with our industry. Certainly on the AAA or the very big games scale, crunch has been a problem over the years, and certainly for smaller developers, crunch is also a problem and something that can lead to burnout and mental breakdowns and all sorts of things. So it's a serious problem in our industry. Now, the reason I've been thinking about this is because an article came out in the news just recently, just charting how much detail had gone into Red Dead Redemption 2, which is coming out in a week or two. And that's a game I'm really looking forward to. I mean, everything that Rockstar do, I buy. I love their games. I feel like their worlds are amazing, immersive experiences. And one of the reasons they are is because they put so much into these games in terms of time, money, manpower. In this article, one of the lead writers and one of the creators of Rockstar is a guy called Dan Houser, and he kind of just made an off the cuff comment about how they'd been working 100-hour weeks and burning themselves out on the game, and a lot of people took that and saw that and went, "My God, that's too much for anything." And he sort of clarified it later by going, "Well, no, that was just a few of the senior members of Rockstar. Not everyone has had to do this, and it's only for a limited time." That's possibly true. I've heard reports that that Rockstar employees have had to work long hours for a long time, and in the past on various projects like GTA 5 and other studios have had crunch problems. You can just look that up anywhere and you'll find many examples of people working 16-hour days, 20-hour days in some cases, not seeing their families for weeks and that kind of thing. And that's not a good thing. And I got thinking about it a little bit, about how do you get around crunch? Big AAA studios have, of course, shareholders and deadlines and so on. And, they say this game is going to be out on October 26th, come hell or high water. And, sometimes they get delayed, but more often than not, they will hit that target. And more often than not, they're working right up to, a month before release on, last minute fixes, and then patches to the games come out after that as well. But one of the things I think they could do to alleviate crunch is just, for me, a simple thing. Make the game smaller. Do they really need 100-hour experiences? Do you really need to be playing a game for 150 hours, tracking down every little side quest and every achievement and so on? I've been reading reviews about a game that I'm really interested in called Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I really want to get that game too. But one of the problems that I've been reading about with the game is that it's massive. It's far too big. People say there's a great story in there, but you can be bogged down by 1,000 side quests, and exploring every inch of ancient Greece. And do you really need open worlds that are that big? I don't think you do. I think a smaller, well-crafted experience is just as good. Red Dead Redemption 2 may well suffer from this problem. It probably won't, because Rockstar tends to have a lot more killer and a lot less filler in terms of their content. But they're also guilty of so much detail. I mean, I've been reading reports of, this take this with a grain of salt, but I read that a journalist was watching a video of Red Dead Redemption 2, and he noticed that the horse had all these great details on it. And so he moved the camera and looked under the horse and to check if the horse had balls, and the horse did. And then one of the developers sort of, maybe tongue-in-cheek, maybe, said, look, in cold weather, they shrink and they grow. Remarkable detail if true. Probably not, but also something that didn't really need to be in the game. And what programmer had to work on that for a couple of hours to get that to work? I think we are guilty of, as game developers, putting in so much stuff just to cater for everyone, when in reality, a smaller experience that has 80% of what you need, 90% of what you need, and maybe a shorter play span, overall as an industry would do us really, do us a world of good. I think consumers have been conditioned to expect more and more and more, and for their price, it's something that I don't think can continue, because crunch means getting up at 6 a.m, going to work and not coming home to see your family until 10 o'clock at night, that kind of thing. And ultimately, it's not healthy for your mind or your body. In the past, I have been certainly guilty of crunch, and in my own games. And when I used to work for an old company, the old company when we were making swords and sandals, most people just left at 5 p.m. and I was the only one working on swords and sandals, and I was so into the games and what I was creating that I would stay back at the office until 9, 10, 11, some nights, 2 or 3 times a week. Not because anyone asked me to, but just because I felt the games deserved it and I wanted to do it. The games all came out, and the Swords and Sandals games did well, of course, and they probably would have done well without the extra bit of effort that I put in there, and if they'd taken a bit longer. But I was sort of, felt like I owed it to myself and to the fans to do all this. And in the end, the company made money. I didn't receive anything over the top for making these games. There was no special bonuses or promotions or anything like that. Just a pat on the back, a thank you, and now make the next one. And there are people at the company that got paid a lot more money than me, and the back end programmers and marketers and so on. There was no real incentive for me to do the crunch other than love of the game. And when I left that place, and towards the end, I stopped doing it. I just wasn't interested anymore. I would go home at 5 like everyone else. And I resolved that I would never crunch again for anyone other than myself. If I'm working for you, I'm going to do everything you ask, but I will not sacrifice my health or my mental health or my time with my family just so you can have horses' balls that grow and shrink. You know what I mean? I feel like as an industry, if we all take a stand and say, look, we're not doing this, then and curb your expectations on what should be in a game, then I think we'd all be a lot better off. I mean, having said that, a small amount of crunch is understandable. I get that, for a week or two, everyone needs to knuckle down and we're going to spend, some late nights on this, but it should not become part of the culture of where you work. And not just in video games, in anything. I mean, in a perfect world anyway. It's funny because I've been thinking a bit more about making video games as a job, and it's something that so many people are passionate about that they would happily do it for free. And that is a good thing and a bad thing, because you get that passion, but you also get people that can be taken advantage of. When you don't think, when you love your job so much that it doesn't feel like a job, that can be a bad thing, because you don't know when to stop and when to take breaks. And I'm guilty of that at home when I'm working on my whiskey barrel stuff. Sometimes I'll forget to take lunch, or I'll grab lunch at the desk and so on. And I have to make a concerted effort to get outside and, sit on the back deck and pat the cat, or, if my son is at home, play with him and, just enjoy being a dad and being away from the computer and, just recharging. And what crunch does is it takes that away from you. A lot of people in jobs they don't love are forced to work long hours as well. And, if they don't, they get fired. And that is a problem as, for our society. The immigrant who runs the local 7-Eleven or the, your late night convenience store, he might be working 12-hour days for 14-hour days because he has to, because if he doesn't make enough money. That's crunch of a different kind, and that's really unfortunate. And so therefore I don't think video game crunch is any more or less of a more or less of a problem than working too long in other industries, but it's something that I don't think we need to do in video games. You don't need to do this because games don't need to be so long or have so much, extra detail and polish in them. If you are making a game as a big company or a small company, my advice would be when you get to about 80% of the time that you've allocated for the game, start wrapping it up. Start cutting out any extra features. Save them for an expansion or a sequel. And start wrapping it up. That way you'll avoid the most crunch. I don't often practice what I preach. In this case, Sword and Sandals Pirates, I've been working on it quite, relative crunch. I've been working on it till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock some nights, but I always make time to go out and have dinner with my wife and sit down and watch a movie. Then I get back on at 9 o'clock and work on it until midnight or something like that. I don't feel like that's crunch. I mean, that is working extra hours, but it's not this soulless grind that a lot of people are forced to do in games. And if you feel like your company is making you do that, say something and find out if it can be avoided. Because I've read somewhere that crunch is a result of bad management. And if you know that your company is doing that, and you have an option, sometimes you don't have an option. If you have that option, maybe look for somewhere else. And if you're a solo developer or an indie developer and you're experiencing crunch and burnout because you're working 12, 14 hours on your game, take breaks. Make sure you get away from your computer every hour at least. Go have a cup of coffee for 5 minutes. Go for a walk in the afternoon before the sun sets. Your game's still going to be there. If you can take a day off, at least once or twice a week, you should. Have your weekends. Even if you're working a little bit on your game during the weekend, that's fine. But in the end, the crunch is going to kill you, and it may result in more sales, but you're going to hate what you do eventually, and you're going to get burnt out and not want to make games, and that's not what we want. So that's it for today. I'm doing a little bit of crunch on Pirates, but not too much. And I'm hoping to get the game out in beta in a couple of weeks. That's why there are a few late nights. And I'm looking forward to playing Red Dead Redemption late at night once the beta's out. So, in a way I feel guilty for supporting AAA companies that do, have periods of crunch. But what do we do, right? It's a complicated issue. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts. As a consumer, do you think games are too big? Do you think they could certainly be smaller and you wouldn't mind? Or do you think that developers should be working long hours to make the games that you want? Or, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hi to all new subscribers, and big shout out to all my old ones. And thank you for just being part of my game development journey. I do appreciate it, and I'll try to do more of these developer videos for you in the future. All right, everyone. Bye for now.